Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our panel. I am Erin Rose Widener. I'm a media and technology strategist, and I'm very excited to be here today with.
Hi, I'm Scott Connolly. I'm the head of media technology at Verizon Labs.
And I'm Katie Fillion. I run the content technology operations group at FOX Entertainment.
Great. So we just announced something today, right? Scott, Verizon and Fox just announced something today.
It's actually been very excited. We've been waiting for the press to come out for quite some time. We're going to talk about today is a deployment of private 5G and our Edge AI product that we did on season 2 of the Fox show Extracted.
And can you tell us what Extracted is for those folks who might not know what Extracted is? Let's just set that up.
I'll give it a try.
Does Katie want to do it?
Premise of the show.
Go ahead.
So it's an unscripted series, and the premises is we send contestants out into these remote regions, and in order to be saved, they have to be extracted. Hence, you're pressing a button in order to remove them from these very challenging situations.
And how many contestants are there? Do we know? Scott, you might know.
There's 12 contestants.
Okay.
So the way that it works is generally there's 3 individual people from each team.
Yeah.
Usually, my understanding is they're families, and so you might have 2 of the family members that would be at the headquarters, where they stay and live together with the other family contestants, and then the 3rd contestant from their team is actually sent out into the forest across 12 camps. As you can imagine, this is deep in the forest, and it's across
Very remote.
very remote, hundreds.
No connectivity whatsoever.
Yeah, it's one of the most technologically advanced shows that I've ever been a part of, and I've been a part of a lot of these kind of projects in my career. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just to up the ante again, very remote. So technologically complex, and we just tried to make it harder by putting it in the middle of nowhere.
Yep. So I think maybe this is a good time to roll the clip.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
we can get a little glimpse of what was done.
Extracted is one of the most technically challenging shows that Fox has ever undertaken.
What's important when you work on a show like this is that the creators would like to work just as if they had connectivity within a city, right? For them to be able to do their jobs, which is effectively creative storytelling.
Verizon came in and built the system that allowed us to send signals from anywhere in a very remote region back to HQ in real time, 0 latency, exactly what we needed to have happen for this show to work and again be sustainable in the future.
The way in which we deployed private 5G as a solution was completely new and novel. So what we provided is a bubble of cellular connectivity that was completely private and secure. We also deployed an Edge AI solution.
It allowed us to really focus on the creative side of things. We have a lot more options now. You can increase the scale and spectacle of a show without increasing the budget.
Television has been made the same way for decades, and not too many things come along that change those parameters. I believe that this technology has now opened up a whole new pathway to how we actually make television moving forward.
Great, cool. So I think the first thing, just kind of to level set for people who might not be as familiar with private 5G or all of that, is can we talk a little bit about the differences between Wi-Fi, private 5G, public 5G, like all of that? And Scott, I'm going to hand that.
Yeah, I'll handle that for you. So the easiest way to think about it is it's all just wireless technology within, different flavors of similar technologies, right? But the biggest advantage that we have with private 5G, and in this scenario here, we were able to put up 4 antennas and cover hundreds, now thousands of acres across the forest, right? And what that means is that when you're utilizing video streaming devices, and we also deployed comms. We did 24 cameras. 12 of them were iPhones that were controlled by the contestants. The other 12 were ENG cameras using high vision encoders. And then we also had Green Go comms, which is all cellular connectivity. So anywhere within that kind of, which is, I think was almost 4 square miles of cellular deployment, they were able to communicate. They were able to stream video crystal clear back to HQ where the production truck existed, and we had larger infrastructure within that space. The biggest advantage in that area is that you have these, let's call them large bubbles with private 5G, where in comparison, if you were doing a Wi-Fi deployment, you would deploy lots of much smaller bubbles. And we always start to see video drops when we move from one bubble to the next. So in this scenario, just purely by the basis of the technology and the distance that it's able to cover, in addition to some of all the security add-ons that it brings along, it really is advantageous to this kind of scenario.
And I'll also add, right, that it's not public 5G. So there's a very big difference, right?
Yeah, no, into this scenario as well, we deployed this large bubble of connectivity, and we were not reliant on the outside world at all. On top of that connectivity, we also deployed our Edge AI platform, which we're testing so that we can give capabilities that would normally be reserved for the broader cloud or the broader internet. In that space, we then can give those capabilities to production. So we don't have any reliance on the outside world at all, and we have all the capabilities to stream cluster flow video and comms as well as the platform.
And I think one of the things that's interesting about this particular setup and for this particular show is that it was so remote. So it was very similar to when private 5G has been deployed at disaster recovery locations as well, right? And so, but like in this particular case, you're actually getting to do more production work.
Yeah, and it really opened up the creative potential to be able to produce stories in regions and locations that you never would have been able to do before, and that was really part of the exciting part about this particular partnership, this particular deployment is if we come back to the storytelling aspect, which is what we're all here talking about. We heard it on the screen there with our showrunner, with the rest of the team here at Fox. It's super exciting to be able to start to build into areas and do things that either would have been cost prohibitive previously or just physically impossible.
You're absolutely speaking my language. I mean, that's one of those things that, I've been a technologist for a long, long time now, and this is kind of a dream for us to. There was one particular magic moment on set because I spent 2 weeks in the Canadian forest with the crew, and where we turned everything on and everything. Since it was season 2, I think they had already been through a hard battle in season 1. And so they didn't know what to expect as we came in season 2. And just to see that moment where they were able to realize that they were absolutely able to start working on creative storytelling right then. And then that carried out through the entire show. And I think all of a sudden everybody started having tons of incredible ideas of things that we could now add on.
Yeah, you're changing it from why not to what if.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And to that point in time, we started testing new workflows or adding on ideas that maybe they weren't planned for in that space.
Do you know if there were different cameras that were used on season 2? Like, was there different ways of capturing that were different in season 2?
I think there was a whole bunch of different units in season 1.
Yeah, there were, more cameras, I think were added from season 1.
Yeah, I think, so just to be clear, there was a combination of both wired and wireless as well.
Right.
Because there is an entire infrastructure of, if you watch the show, there's cameras on trees, there's cameras all over that space.
Well, and so to that point, thinking about just the sheer volume of content that's coming in, and that also ended up being one of kind of the aha moments for the creative unlock. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the Edge AI deployment?
Yeah, absolutely. As we started to kind of dig into this world, we had all this compute power in that space. We were working very closely with Haivision as well, and we were able to harness the API of their system and actually be able to get GPS location data from the API and from the cameras and iPhones as well. And directly, that meant that with the system, we were actually able to vibe code or build an application right on the spot spot that allowed us to build a visual map that the storytellers then had a capability to see within the production as well. And that meant that not only could they tell where all the contestants were, because the contestants had the iPhones, which they were filming themselves, but they also had the capability to know where the contestants were in relation to the cameras. So now the cinematographers could plan their shots better.
Again, it's like these creative unlocks, right? Where you didn't realize that it was possible until it becomes possible.
Yeah, no, I think that's the most exciting part about modern day technology.
Yeah. Well, you're just able to, and I think, we also have to kind of talk about the fact that, I don't know, it was like a year or 18 months, like in between shows, like season 1, season 2, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I think there was a pretty long delay.
And so, but like, that's also interesting because of where we're at right now with technology just in general. So you talk about edge AI, but also like that private 5G, maturity and like being able to deploy something that maybe like you couldn't have deployed on season 1 in its full, and so, but I think it really talks to the moment that we are all in right now within media and tech, is that we're all experiencing something together where you're playing, you're like doing like the vibe coding. You're like, okay, well, let's try and solve this. And why not? We have like 5 minutes,
But it's like the problems that we have today, the technology that we're seeing this week, it's going to be different next week. It's going to be different in 2 months.
That's right.
It's exciting and exhilarating and sometimes terrifying. But when we take a step back and reframe it through what is that creative, unlock? How does it serve the story? How does it allow, the productions to be able to do something new and different?
Yeah.
As long as we're centered in that bold, innovative ways of working and the technology falls to the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the one thing I'll have to say as well is that I really focus on how all these tools that are now available can really help us work more efficiently, right? And how, I almost look at them as additions to the work that we've already been doing. But what's to your point, right? We have so many more tools every month. And so when we built a lot of the workflows that we actually deployed on this show, we had showcased similar workflows at NEB last year. And then that workflow led directly to the edge AI testing that we did on the show. And then, if we have new seasons or new shows in the future, like where we hope
continue to iterate and continue to change.
Absolutely.
But I think that's actually a really interesting point, Scott, because I think it's worth a second to talk about what was done at NAB last year, because I think what's fascinating is that was a broadcast. That was a broadcast project.
Yeah, very much.
That was a live broadcast project. Now we know that, this was an unscripted show, but unscripted works very differently than like a narrative project. So much so that it's more similar to like that broadcast kind of setup, being able to do some of those live edits right there and shape that story as you're going.
So the most incredible thing about this show is we have 150 cameras, right? 25 of them are wireless across the private network. And hopefully, in the future, there'll be many, many more wireless cameras, now with all the learnings we've taken. But to your point, what we deployed last year was an example of everything that we could think of that we could do with the Edge AI platform and wireless video at the time. This show shoots 24/7 with all those cameras. And so all that the data is streaming in all the time. And we've got an entire army of folks out there watching all these cameras to make creative storytelling decisions, but also there's a lot of other elements in the space, right? There's bears in the forest, right? And so even to that point in time, you may have, a bear walk through a camp in the middle of the night, and it may be completely missed because everybody else is sleeping, right? So,
right, but those are the sort of innovations that we really get excited about too, because you're able to enhance the creative storytelling. You're able to to find those special moments that would have been missed just because of the sheer massive amount of footage that no human can work through.
So what we did last year was using a very similar system, but we had applied it to using bit rate modulation for going through live broadcast. Within the same exact architecture, with the same software system, we were able to rebuild all these into systems that could look out and watch the footage, testing, transcribing the footage, testing, identifying what's happening in the scene, so that maybe in the future season, the director can come in the morning and get a summary of everything that happened last night, right? And it's amazing to see that just that small transition within the same software-defined workflows and that we've been able to deploy.
Yeah, it's a lot of what used to happen only in post or only in these, these worlds that are really set apart from what's happening in the production world. It's all merging. And to your point, Aaron Rose, like that's very similar to what it is in a broadcast environment where everything is happening all at once.
Yeah. And so are you seeing, Katie, just more broadly, I guess, within production, what are you seeing change within that technology space, or just how are workflows changing?
I think that there is definitely more interconnectivity from what used to happen at the end, happening much sooner in that planning process.
Yeah.
In having to think about those decisions earlier is also kind of a creative. It's something that a post-production decision or a finishing decision or a distribution decision are getting pushed so much further into that pipeline and so much further upstream that it's all becoming one in many ways.
It's so interesting because I think with virtual production, that's been yeah.
I guess that's the theme across all.
Just all share a brain, so it's fine. It's fine. We just
with virtual, there's a lot of planning, but you're kind of fixed, And I think what you were talking about with the vibe coding on set, we have so much more flexibility to be able to move quickly and to adapt and to change, and that's what production is about.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting just to see these new roles too, right? So with virtual production, there are all these new roles that pop up, but I would imagine that as that workflow shifts within broadcast, within production, we're also going to see a shift in roles and responsibilities and the type of crew that you would need,
And entirely new roles, I would imagine.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with this particular project, where are you seeing that being applied in different places? With Extracted, again, it's unscripted, but are there different places that this particular technology setup would help with?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we started talking about this as kind of the next iteration, but so much of what we deployed in that very remote environment really could be adopted into a studio environment as well. And productions many productions are not all shooting exclusively in the woods with bears.
Most are, though. I mean, obviously. No, to the point, right? So private 5G is a product that we have been deploying across factories and different kind of enterprise businesses for quite some time. It was something that was intended to be a permanent deployment, right? Something to make efficiencies within that space where other technologies wouldn't work. And so when we started imagining how we might use this in the media and entertainment space, we first went and talked about hey, let's deploy this within the studio systems. And over time, what we kind of, discovered is a few things, right? The very first one was that if you are on a production in a studio and you're shooting half that production in studio and half that on location, your workflow end to end has to change halfway through the show.
You got to reinvent the wheel.
And also you're going out on location and you're losing all the tools, the cool stuff that you had, as well. And so the first pre-commercial product that we tested on Extracted was the capability of really deploying this in a mobile fashion, right? Entirely a temporary asset that's utilizing spectrum that's available within Canada where it was deployed, and then allowing that to, be only there for, I think we were there on site for 6 or 8 weeks, right? And then we take it down and we took the temporary towers down and it's like we were never there at all. But secondly, the thing that we learned over time early on in the coming of AI was this, idea that we needed to be able to, we wanted these tools in production, but we didn't want to have all the kind of IP security concerns. So we built this private cloud, the private edge AI system on top of that private mobile network. And now we're testing how we can give those capabilities while having to have that connectivity to the internet.
Yeah. It's just about making it easy. Making it easy for the creatives, making it easy for the storytelling, and exactly what you're describing, solving the problem, having a turnkey deployment, and being able to lift and shift into different areas, different industries. That's what we're all after.
And I think our next step now, I hope, will be going back and exploring how we can build this as permanent infrastructure in the studios, and then we'll have a hybrid workflow that covers both on location and on studio, and you can use the same tools from start to finish,
and not reinvent the wheel.
I mean, what a concept!
We'll reinvent something else.
I mean, I think the permanent private infrastructure is really an interesting thread to kind of like pull on, in not only because it offers so much there, but also, again, I'm going to go back to where we are with technology. And so when we think about, AI, and I'm going to say the word AI here at this moment, when we think about AI and what people are doing, I mean, we've all been in the studio space for a very, very long time. And the thing that we talk about a lot is security. And we talk about like, there is IP that like we are very, very conscientious of. And so when you think about that added layer of like that private 5G kind of set up that network, like what do you guys see that enabling with more of like that kind of permanent infrastructure setup?
I think when I'm thinking about it in a production deployment, especially, IT infrastructure, production IT, that's like a relatively new thing. And it's something that there isn't necessarily a ton of expertise in some of these different, infrastructures. So it depending on the budget, depending on the speed, it may be something that falls to the wayside. And so that's something that, again, making it easy, making it standardized, leaning into standards where we can, those are things that make it a much more turnkey deployment and much easier for us to be able to have that control and to not get in the way of what the creatives need to be able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I'll take this opportunity to kind of explain what we're kind of building in this space and how we've deployed our Edge AI platform. Right, the system itself is a multi-tenancy system that has it's integrated directly with Holoscan for media, and it is built within SMPTE 2110. Right. So to your point, what we looked at from the very beginning was how can we take these industry standard workflows and build them into something that can be deployed on top of our private network, but also more broadly in the future, how you can leverage the fabric of Verizon's network, across the entire United States. So we're building a system that is going to be available as part of private infrastructure where you might have some on-prem processing with some on-prem GPUs to be able to deploy your models locally. But then from that point in time to reach out farther into our network where there's other data centers connected, and you can get much larger resources when and if needed, and when and if you have data that is sanitized to be able to go to the broader cloud. Right. So we're trying to listen to the industry and also build on top of infrastructure that is the industry's already used to utilizing, meaning we're building on top of Kubernetes containerization. We're building on the same infrastructure that you might have an application that is deployed in AWS. And now if you have something that you use in AWS and you would like us just investigate porting that onto a mobile system that we can deploy in the middle of the forest without internet connectivity, that's actually an option.
Yeah. Modular, flexible, customizable. Those are all the things that we're all chasing right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would also add that it's not just the studios. So like the thing that you both have probably heard me say this over and over again, but is that media is everywhere. And so media is in every single vertical. So the type of technology that you're thinking about for studios also is very helpful in other environments as well.
Yeah. To that point in, 2026, I've started to investigate many other industries, right? There's lots and lots of overlap with SMPTE 2110 being adopted in the medical industry, right? And that's really exciting because that means that when we have more industries investing in these kind of technologies, that means that we can build better tools that we can use cross industry, and that's only better for all the industries that are using them.
Yep. especially because I think like there are investments coming in from all of these different pockets. And so like everybody's playing, but everybody's playing with video, oddly enough. And so like, I think that's what's kind of fun about it.
I keep trying to look up that statistic, right? Of like how many like multimodal AI workflows are actually utilizing video or multimodal. And the statistics are staggering, not now, but in 2028, right? When we start like years from now, we're just talking like 80%, and don't quote me on that, please, of the actual statistics.
Well, people have AI to look this up.
Yeah, they'll look it up. They'll look it up, just like I've been looking at that space.
That's great. So what's next? What are you guys thinking about what's next? And I would say more broadly in terms of like, what are you excited about? Either what you're seeing at the show, what are you excited about like in terms of how quickly things are moving, right? Or what are you worried about?
I'm just excited about continuing to build where the industry is pointing us, right? My 21-year-old filmmaker is constantly jealous of me now. And I think that's a good thing to say about this point in your career, right? Because the idea of the amount of resources and tools that we have available to us that we've had throughout our entire career, it's very exciting to see what all these tools are going to be able to utilize in the future. And I'm hoping that we can just continue to build and enable creators.
Yeah, +1 to that, absolutely. And it's been interesting walking around the show floor this year too. The blend of technologies, the blend of different parts of that media supply chain that everybody is targeting, whether it's a creator, and the creator's economy, whether it's verticals, whether it's traditional forms of media, everybody's kind of playing in that same sandbox. And we're getting to a point where the tools can be adapted to all those different types of content verticals. And that's interesting and exciting. And I think one of the best trends that I've seen, because we have so many toys in our toolbox now.
It's very, very exciting.
Yeah. No, I mean, you said verticals, right? But I think there is so much content. So I think like this year is like the year that we're going to start seeing things kind of come to fruition. I think Extracted was like this great example of actually using the tech that has been talked about for a very long time and implementing it in a way that was actually helpful. Because I think that's one of the things that we talk about too, right? Is it actually helpful?
Yeah.
And like,
Who can it be
are you doing it just for the sake of it? Or, did it actually do something? Did it solve something? Did it make it better? Yeah.
No, we talk about especially in service of the story, the technology has to be invisible and invaluable. That's what we're striving for.
I love that. I think that's true. And you've also said, Katie, too, I have heard you say like enabling, like it has to enable that creativity, that
all
human
has
element.
to serve the story. If we're all sitting up here on the stage talking about, an amazing show that was put together, but the reason we're here is because all of these innovations, all these ideas were to serve the story.
I just want to say just how happy we are to be working with Fox, like in that way. And then they're just such a fantastic partner, and they were really able to take the risk that it needed to be taken to trust us to be able to help build, and hopefully enhance their story.
Yeah. And Verizon, you guys have been a wonderful partner as well.
Thank you.
Well, that is just so wonderful. I don't think we can top that, guys. So thank you so much for joining us. And it's just such a pleasure. Like, it's always fun. When we were prepping for this, we were like, we're just going to go up there and talk because we love talking with each other. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed.
We'll be hanging out in the back afterwards if there's any other major questions as well. So love to talk about it.
Thank you.